Hi, I'm Yuki Matsuzaki, an actor in Japan and Hollywood. As you may have heard, the Japanese Me Too movement is in full swing, and one of the well-known Japanese directors who's been exposed as a predator was Mr. Sion Sono. Apparently, Mr. Sono's misbehavior has been widely known among the people in the Japanese film industry, but none dare to criticize him publicly, fearing what might happen as a consequence of speaking up. Until I did. In March this year, I learned on Twitter that Mr. Sono was drunk and abusive towards actors at his acting workshop. And I also learned that he charged up-and-coming actors 100,000 yen, that is roughly 800 US dollars, to appear in his latest film. Yes, you heard correctly. Charging actors, not paying them. So, I criticized him publicly on Twitter for this apparent exploitation. And this triggered other people to share some of their horror stories regarding Mr. Sono. One former actress remembered that many years ago, Mr. Sono had messaged her that he wanted to meet her privately and told her specifically to not to bring her manager with her if she wanted to appear in his film. Then a talent manager, who is a good friend of mine, saw this tweet and contacted me and told me this apparent poaching of actresses had actually happened to her. And she told me the story of how Mr. Sono and his associates allegedly sowed distrust in a young Japanese actress towards her management company so that she would no longer trust them. And then one of Mr. Sono's closest associates sexually exploited her after she lost her management. When I heard this, I was infuriated and devastated. And this poaching happened just a few years ago. The other similar incident brought up by the former actress happened more than 15 years ago on a Japanese social media site called Mixi, she told me, which means it is possible that for many, many years, Mr. Sono and the people around him have been poaching actresses so that they would become more susceptible to exploitation. So I expressed my anger on Twitter, tweeting in Japanese, and quote, "Someone I know was taught not to trust her management at the workshops run by Sion Sono and the people around him, and once she became all alone, she was sexually exploited." You may have read this and thought, wait, is this about me? If so, then this was his MO. There are tens of victims out there. End quote. This tweet was based on an actual story happened to my friend. And how did Mr. Sono himself react to my and many other serious accusations on Twitter? He tweeted on his secret Twitter account 2 days after my accusation in Japanese, and quote, "We're at an age where everyone misbelieves that they can even assassinate the president using Twitter. You gotta risk your life," end quote. In another tweet, he tweeted, end quote, "Those information on Twitter, LOL," end quote. He was laughing at those Twitter accusations. But then came a flood of serious accusations against him in weekly magazines. One of the most horrible allegations was a sexual assault against an actress allegedly enabled by Mr. Sono's closest associates. And the rest is history. He was publicly humiliated and his predatory behavior was exposed to the public. Then why am I, the guy who called him out first, is making this video? Because a week ago, Mr. Sono and his legal team sent me a letter accusing me, claiming that my tweet about him and the people around him, the one about poaching actresses, was nothing but a false accusation based on mere rumors in the industry. They have threatened me that they will sue me if I do not comply with the following demands. 1. delete all tweets involving Mr. Sono and his films within 7 days. 2. Never put out information regarding Mr. Sono and his films ever again in the future. 3. Do not reveal the existence and contents of this letter to the public. 4. Publicly apologize to Mr. Sono within 7 days and echo their bogus claim that I falsely accused him. And here's my short answer to them. No. It's a pretty obvious retaliation against me, but not for speaking up against him first, but for giving something to his victims that no one else has given before. The courage to speak up against Mr. Sono. That's why he wants to retaliate me specifically, so that he can scare away other victims from coming forward. And which is why I choose to honor those victims who have come forward and share their traumatizing experiences despite experiences many, many flashbacks, so that the future generations of young actors won't face what they faced. Once again, my accusation was based on a true story, and I have a written statement by the first-hand witness to back up my claim. So, Mr. Sono, if you still want to test me in court, be my guest. I'll see you in court. So I guess now I have to get lawyered up. I hear it's pretty costly. If you want to support me in this fight, go to my GoFundMe page and pitch in. And if they decided to not to follow through this threat, I will use those funds to support other victims and for harassment prevention in film industry, TV industry, anime industry, and most importantly, theater industry. Thank you for listening. Good night.